Good morning and welcome to the first session in the BMGI Innovation Lunch Series, The Challenge of Innovation. Innovation is often misunderstood by both individuals and businesses, leading to discrepancy in applications, expectations, and often delivered results. This short 20-minute webinar will provide a glimpse into the different types of innovation, why innovation often fails, and also introduce a structured roadmap for innovation. Following the presentation, we will be having roughly 10 minutes question and answers available. We won't be taking them throughout the presentation, so if you would like to submit a question, please send them via the question function on the webinar panel you'll see on your screen. And so with no further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Michael Ola, who leads the BMGI innovation practice in Europe. He is a trained MBB, and Michael has worked a lot in the R&D field and helped many clients with new product innovation. He also delivers the workshops and training around different aspects of innovation for BMGI. So Michael, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Megan, and welcome to everybody to this lunchtime webinar. Typically, we say good morning when our webinars are in morning time, good afternoon when it's in the afternoon. Now we can just say, well, enjoy your lunch while we are going through the slides and through this discussion here. So we thought we start series webinars. We started with the challenge of innovation. Let's look into these topics. But before going there, and for whatever reason, I can't hold on. Yes, now I can. Sorry for that technical problem. Before going there, here is some more information that you might want to know. So whoever is interested in more deeper knowledge around innovation, there are two weekly trainings coming up both in March and in July. One is on innovation and design in Munich, the other is on trees, also in Munich. For more information, also trainings in the US and Asia Pacific, you can consult BMGI's webpage. And we also recommend to really check out our bmgi.org page for all kinds of tools, resources, research, and so on. All right. Well, now let's get started. So what are 20 minutes about? First, we would like to understand whether we have a shared understanding with. Then we will convince ourselves that creating the future business is really tricky. Many people think that the voice of the customer is the best guide, and it is indeed a very good guide, but it can be unreliable. With all that said, we will then see that there are tools out there that help us explore better the future of our company's business. When having talked about that, I would like to briefly resume a discussion that we have with some of our clients who say we want to deploy innovation to the organization. So what do we need to consider for that? All right, well, so long for the content. Let's quickly see. So when we want to know what innovation really is, our tendency these days is to go and Google and find out. What you end up with are literally millions of hits and different results. When you say, okay, let's go somewhere else, let's go to Business Week. Business Week might be more focused on what business is about. We still end up with almost 4,000 different results. Even Amazon, or also Amazon, has more than 100,000. In LinkedIn, you find many results. Harvard Business Review, 2,800 articles on the topic. So when you want to find out what innovation is, you shared understanding but there are many, many different voices, many, many different aspects that people think must absolutely be considered. And when you talk about that in your own company, you find out more or less the same. So even inside companies, people do not have a shared understanding of innovation. Whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, that's another discussion. We think at BMGI, we think we can make a lot of sense out of diversity. But of course, you will need to be able to manage that. But let's hold that point for the moment. There is no shared understanding of what innovation really is. Now, if we say, let's not use buzzwords. Let's just say we are running today's business in our company and we want to create the future business. So what about that? How easy or how hard is that? Now, if we look into research, and there are also more recent articles than the one quoted here, if we look into research, we find that indeed the odds are against us. So here are results that found, or is an article that found that more than 80% of the venture capital investments failed. That more than 90% of the companies fail to sustain an above average shareholder return, at least for the longer term. And now comes a really astonishing point. About 75% of all new products fail that established companies have put into their own markets. So we are running today's business. We want to create the future business. No matter how good we think we are, the odds are simply against us if we assume that we are no better than the other companies out there. All right. While preparing this webinar, I read in The Economist, they have business this week, a quick overview of what happened. I came across these two articles, just one next to the other. One about Yahoo. We all know Yahoo and Yahoo's history, and the other on Eastman Kodak. And I thought these two companies, even if they, or especially if they are cited one next to the other in The Economist, they might serve as an example to understand further the challenge of innovation. So here let's look at Yahoo. Back in the late 90s, two young students came to see Jerry Yang from Yahoo and said, hey Jerry, look, we have a really intelligent and clever search algorithm that you might want to have for Yahoo. And what we would like to have is that you finance our studies because we study at Harvard, and so we would like to charge you $1 million. Jerry Yang, by that time, said, you know what, I could easily afford that money. That is not the question, but the strategy of my company is different. Search is more or less explored, yeah? It's just finding out fine details that still need to be optimized, and your algorithm might just contribute to that, but my strategy is to look for the next big thing. These two students went back, optimized their algorithm further, created some traffic on their web page, and after some time went back to see Jerry Yang and said, look Jerry, here we have created a lot of traffic. Many people are coming to our website. So indeed, it has become a good business. We are not yet making money, but it is really interesting for users. So if you are still interested in buying it, you still can. However, now we would like to charge $10 million. Jerry Yang more or less responded the same. He said, you know what, there is just not this strategic fit that I need because we are after the next big thing and search is optimized. Well, all of us know how the story continued, and we just saw the recent news in the article in The Economist, which I just quoted. Things have moved on. What went wrong? So it looks like if Yahoo had, at least in those days, underappreciated what is still in the search engine paradigm. So they were ready to give up that paradigm too early, which is one of two ways of getting things wrong. Let's look into the other example. So this is Kodak. And those coming from Germany, at least, or from a German-speaking country, might remember a book which was called, and published back in the 80s, which was called Mountains on Kodachrome. So Kodak developed such great film that a person put the name of that company even in the title of a book, Mountains on Kodachrome. So Kodak said, we are the film company. There's no better company than us making films. And if you look back in history, Kodak also holds one of the earlier or even earliest patents for the digital camera, but they deeply underappreciated how much these cameras could change the world. Think back in those old days, yeah, the first digital cameras were just lousy for whoever was a real professional photographer. So Kodak said, we talked to our best customers and they said they never wanted digital cameras. We have just seen the news, and you have also seen it somewhere else. Kodak is being protected now from Chapter 11. They might go bankrupt. We all hope that this will not happen. And if we look back, we can ask what went wrong. And it seems like Kodak failed to look outside their film paradigm. They said, we are the film company. And people said, we don't want films. We want pictures. We want memory from our vacation. That's what we want. Okay, so here we have two examples, two well-known examples about failure to live up to creating the new business. Let's look quickly at the basis, voice of the customer. You might be familiar with this quote. Henry Ford once said, if I had asked my customers what they would have asked for faster horses. And this has been put in different words by Professor Levitt from Harvard Business School. People don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill, they want to buy a quarter-inch hole. So what kind of tool is there, what kind of concept is there that might help us get beyond that voice of the customer that focuses on today's solution? And this has been developed by Clay Christensen some years ago already. The key concept behind that is the job to be done. So if our job were to illuminate the room at night, what we can do is either light up a fire in the middle of the room, which humanity has done for thousands of years. We could light up a candle, we could light up a light bulb. We could also have glowing wallpaper sometime in the future. We do not know. The job will not change. Today's solution will change and will become tomorrow's solution. And we all know about yesterday's solution. Here's also the guidance that we need in order to develop job statements. So solution independency is one is the best guide. Here you have a short explanation, yeah, how such a job statement is constructed. We have an action verb, we have the object, and we have the clarifier. Now that looks terribly simple. In our seminars, when we talk to people, we realize that it takes about a day to really be able to apply that in your own context, but then it helps looking beyond today's solution. While we get such a job done, by the way, there's another concept that I would briefly like to mention here. It is called the outcome expectations. It's also solution independent. And we ask what kind of aspects are important to people when they get that job done of illuminating the room. So here we have the example of maximize the ease of starting the illumination device. this is independent from the solution. So we don't talk about a light bulb, a candle, or whatsoever. All right. Now we understand voice of the customer, understand that leads us beyond the voice of the customer. Now we can ask, what would that mean to our organization? And when we look deeply into that topic, we understand that an organization needs to do both things: execute today's business and at the same time create tomorrow's business. And if we ask, how do we execute today's business? We all understand there are predictable input-output relations. So when we get in something into the system, we more or less know what will come out. We have KPIs in place that help us track performance, manage deviations, and so on. And we have a strong accountability for results. So this is how we run today's business. By the way, that's also true for our improvement projects. If you are working inside a Lean Six Sigma program, you know after some years, you know how much you will get if you start so and so many green belt projects, so and so many black belt projects, and so on. It's all predictable. We have our KPIs, and we hold people accountable for the results. Now, on the flip side of that, if we want to create tomorrow's business, we need a completely different approach. Why that? Because we have a huge uncertainty with regards to cause and effect. That leads us to the necessity of running experiments. We need to try things, and we need to run many experiments, and we need to learn fast from them. In the very end, we can't hold people accountable for the results. We rather need to hold them accountable for their action, what they did, and for the learning. Now, with all that said, there is a how-to behind both these approaches, executing today's business and creating tomorrow's business. And like there is a science for how to best run today's business, there seems to be a science evolving in how to best create tomorrow's business. Now, when we want to create the ability of a company to further produce tomorrow's business, bring to market new products, some of our clients come and talk to us and say, look, we would like you to run something like a 2-day training for all our employees so that they learn how to create future business, so that they become more innovative and we become a more innovative company. That is, in the end, developing some competency. And here's now a roadmap that BMGI has developed in order to help companies deploy whatever. Whatever means Lean Six Sigma, it can be SAP, it can be whatever kind of other approach, and it can also be innovation. And when people come to us with such questions like, please train all our people in 2 days so they learn the basics about innovation, we ask, okay, but that, what for do you want them to be trained? So what kind of opportunities do you have, and what kind of opportunities do you have selected so far? Oh, well, you know, often is the answer, we don't know yet. We will find out with those people once they are trained. Okay, we ask then. So what about the strategic objectives that you want to achieve? When we select opportunities, do they tie to what kind of objectives do they tie? And when we talk about objectives, who are the stakeholders that need to be involved when you want to work on these opportunities and address those objectives? Well, in the very end, you see already with this roadmap, there is a certain approach. We can't just start by saying we want to develop competency inside an organization so that the organization becomes more innovative, whatever that really means. We need to do that in some kind of structured approach. And the wisdom in the approach that you see here in this roadmap has been tested, applied, and learned from over and over again in some at least 100 deployments all over the world of different topics. But as I said, it also works for innovation. Well, with that said, that's what we talked about today. So the odds are indeed against us when we want to create tomorrow's business. However, there are really good guidelines. There seems to be a science emerging, and there is a good guideline in order to deploy problem solving in the sense of creating tomorrow's business to your company. All right, so long for this quick introduction. Now open for any kind of questions or comments.
Thank you, Michael, for that short presentation, a really interesting introduction, I think, into the idea of innovation. Just to repeat, anybody who does have questions, if you do want to use the question tab on the webinar platform, then we do have about 10 minutes, so do send those in to me now. Michael, I have one for you to get started. From your experience and the work that you've done with other companies and people that you've talked with, what would you say is the most common challenge you find with innovation? And therefore, what would you suggest to change this?
Okay. Well, one key thing that we always see is, we also just said it now, innovation in companies are the creation of tomorrow's business and often the creation of novelty in a very broad sense. So issues like change leadership really need to be addressed. When you are, let's say, a Finnish company based around the production of rubber and other diverse products, and want out of a sudden to become a leading mobile phone provider, change leadership will be a key issue to address. That is one thing. The next thing that I see is people underappreciate people's diversity, and that in the context of problem solving. I might like to solve a problem, I might like to create a new product by giving completely up-to-date solution. Like I might want to replace the candle by a light bulb because that's how I like approaching things. But as we have seen with Yahoo, it might not be the time to give up the candle but still perfect it, less smoke, longer lasting, and so on and so on. So that's, I think those are the two key things that I would like to point out from the people side. The overall organization needs to be led through the change, and the individuals whom we need to drive that change, there we need to appreciate diversity in style of problem solving.
Thank you, Michael. And we saw the deployment roadmap that you presented in one of the last slides there. Obviously, on this webinar, there's quite a few people that are looking to get started on their innovation journey. What one piece of advice would you give to anybody in terms of what to do first when they're starting out on this journey?
We need to start from the people side. We always tend to start from the technical side, from the product side, from what is technically feasible, but I deeply believe we need to start from the people side. This deployment roadmap, by the way, seems linear structuring, but it's not. We need to do one only after the next and so on. So there are things we can do in parallel, and that's why the question is really a sharp question. When we don't have a need clearly shared inside the company that we need to create a new approach, that we need to help the entire company come up better and being more ready for the acceptance of tomorrow's business. So when we don't have that shared view, it will not work. With that said, knowing the stakeholders, knowing the objectives, and considering employees, customers, the environment the company is embedded in as stakeholders is probably the first thing to start. Again, that's not said literally here, but it's in the backup material that BMGI have, so to say. Creating that sense of urgency. We need to do it, and being sure that we can share it throughout the company is certainly the first thing to start with. Otherwise, all other efforts are more or less worthless.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Michael. I think that's all the questions that we have for today, but please, if anybody does have any further questions that they didn't want to ask online and would like to discuss further, then please do email on michael.oehler@bmgi.com or alternatively on info.eu@bmgi.com. We'd be more than happy to discuss with any of you any innovation ideas, challenges, or journeys that you have to date. You can also find further information on BMGI's innovation training on the website www.bmgi.com. If you then click on the training schedule for Europe, then you'll find a number of different innovation courses available that you may be interested in. As Michael pointed out, there are further free resources on innovation available on bmgi.org, a number of tools and templates, and further pre-recorded webinars that you might be interested in as well. So at that point, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us on their lunch break. I do hope we provided you with food for thought, for want of using a metaphor, over your lunch break. I'd like to thank Michael for giving us his insights today, and for sharing with us your experience on innovation. So everybody, thank you for listening. I do hope you'll join us again for the next in the series, and enjoy the rest of your lunch break.